Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is your essential guide, really, for navigating the just immense sea of information that's swirling around us all the time. I'm your host, ready to explore what truly matters, and with me, as always, is our brilliant expert, ready to unpack the insights.
Always a pleasure to dive in. Our mission today, like always, is to give you that critical shortcut, help you be genuinely well-informed. We've meticulously sifted through, a huge array of sources. We're talking groundbreaking scientific discoveries, critical tech advancements, complex geopolitical shifts, and some really fascinating cultural stuff, too.
That's right. Think of this as your personalized expedition through the most impactful news and research out there. Today, we're casting a wide net, trying to get a really diverse mix of topics. But we're putting a particular emphasis on the truly transformative developments. Things in science, space, archaeology, and technology. And you can trust that we're committed to delivering this information with absolute impartiality. Especially, when we touch on politically charged content. Our goal is just to give you the facts, maybe from multiple angles, without any spin. And we'll try to inject just enough genuine curiosity and maybe a touch of well-placed humor to keep you hooked. Because learning shouldn't feel like a chore, right?
Right. And every key piece of information we discuss is directly drawn from the sources we've reviewed. We're focused on depth, making sure that for each topic, you really walk away with a nuanced understanding.
Exactly. So let's unpack this mountain of information. Let's look for those aha moments that help you connect the dots and, see the bigger picture. We're starting our journey today with the cosmos, our own planet, and some truly unseen wonders. Think of it as a scientific and space odyssey.
A very fitting start. There's some profound stuff unfolding in these areas.
Absolutely. Kicking things off, we have some genuinely groundbreaking discoveries coming to us from orbit, giving us an unprecedented peek into Earth's vital rainforests. This feels like a monumental leap in how we understand our planet's critical ecosystems.
It really is an extraordinary development. The initial images coming back from the biomass satellite, they're poised to fundamentally reshape how we understand rainforests. And this isn't just about, collecting more data. It's about gaining insights into these critical biomes with a precision we just never had before.
That sounds revolutionary. What exactly is this biomass satellite doing that's so different? I mean, what kind of images are we talking about that give us this kind of breakthrough?
Well, the biomass satellite, it's a pretty amazing initiative from the European Space Agency, ESA. It's equipped with something called a P-band synthetic aperture radar. Now imagine a radar that's powerful enough to literally see through the incredibly dense forest canopy, like right down to the tree trunks.
Wow, seriously, through all the leaves and branches.
Exactly. That's what this P-band radar does. See, unlike your traditional optical satellites that, they just map the visible surface, the top layer, biomass can actually measure the three-dimensional structure of the forests. This lets it precisely quantify the actual biomass that's the total amount of living organic matter in these rainforests.
Okay, so not just the area, but the volume of trees.
Precisely. Previous methods often relied on estimations, maybe satellite data combined with ground measurements or proxies, which, look, they were useful, but they always came with higher margins of error, By providing a true volumetric picture, including those hidden trunks and large branches, biomass gives us this unprecedented baseline of global forest carbon.
Wow, that's like X-ray vision for entire forests. That's an incredible technological feat. So why does this level of detail matter so much? I mean, for climate science and for global conservation efforts, this isn't just scientific curiosity, is it?
Oh, not at all. It's hugely significant. For climate science, rainforests are often called the lungs of the Earth, right? They're massive carbon sinks. They absorb vast amounts of CO2 from the atmosphere. So understanding exactly how much carbon they store, and importantly, how that storage changes over time, due to deforestation or even natural growth and decay, that's absolutely crucial for accurate climate modeling, for predicting future climate scenarios.
Right, because if our starting numbers are wrong,
then our models could be less accurate.
Exactly.
This impacts everything from global carbon budgets to our understanding of the planet's warming trajectory. These images provide a much more precise, verifiable baseline for carbon accounting.
So we'll actually know how much carbon is locked up in these forests rather than relying so much on estimation.
That sounds huge for climate models. Could it even impact, say, international climate negotiations?
It absolutely could, and likely will. See, this isn't just about getting better numbers, though that's important. It fundamentally shifts the leverage, potentially, in international climate talks.
Sure.
It gives us more precise data to hold nations accountable for deforestation and, conversely, for carbon sequestration efforts.
Accountability based on real data.
Yes. And for conservation, this unparalleled data will allow scientists to identify which areas are most carbon dense, therefore which are most critical to protect. It can help monitor deforestation much more effectively. Not just the area lost, but the actual carbon mass released when that area is cleared.
Okay, so much clearer picture of the damage. And also forest degradation. You know, where forests aren't cleared completely but are damaged maybe by logging or fires. That might not be obvious from a simple top-down view, but it significantly impacts carbon storage and biodiversity. This new level of precision enables more targeted, more effective conservation strategies. It helps governments and organizations prioritize efforts where they can have the greatest impact. It's about moving from broad brushstrokes to really fine detail in understanding these global lungs, equipping us with better tools for action.
Incredible. From the lush, three-dimensional depths of the rainforest, we're now plunging into the inky blackness of the deep ocean. And get ready for some truly thrilling news. The elusive colossal squid, Mesodinchoteuthis hamiltoni. Well, it might have finally unveiled its secret face for the first time ever. You know, for a creature that's estimated to be as long as a bus, it's really been playing hard to get with its close-ups. A bit camera shy, perhaps.
Huh. You could say that. It certainly has been elusive. And what's truly fascinating here is just how secretive this creature remains. The colossal squid, Mesodinchoteuthis hamiltoni, it primarily dwells in the abyssal darkness of the deep ocean. That makes it one of the most mysterious large marine creatures on Earth. It's known for its immense size, as you said. Some specimens estimated up to an astonishing 46 feet in length, maybe even weighing more than its more famous cousin, the giant squid.
46 feet, that's like a 4-story building with tentacles. Just mind-boggling. No wonder it's been so hard to spot. What makes it so elusive, beyond just living in those crushing depths?
Well, its habitat is definitely the primary challenge. The colossal squid resides at depths largely beyond the reach of standard diving equipment, even most submersibles, often below 6,000 feet. Just think about the pressure down there. Combine that extreme environment with its likely solitary nature and, well, its unknown behavioral patterns. It means that until now, pretty much everything we know about it has come from specimens accidentally caught in deep-sea fishing nets, or very rarely found washed ashore.
So mostly dead or dying specimens.
Exactly. Scientific insights into its life cycle, its diet, how it interacts with its environment, they're incredibly limited. It's still shrouded in mystery, known mostly from fragments or, believe it or not, from the contents of sperm whale stomachs. They seem to be a major predator.
Wow. So observing it alive in its natural habitat, that's been the holy grail for marine biologists for decades.
Absolutely. So capturing this animal on camera, alive and in its environment, is an exceptionally rare event, potentially a once-in-a-lifetime sight, really.
So what kind of scientific impact could this potential face reveal have? I mean, what new opportunities does it open up for researchers if we finally see it properly?
Oh, this potential revelation represents an absolutely monumental milestone in marine biology. Seeing the colossal squid alive, and specifically its unique facial features, its huge eyes, its powerful beak-like mouth, its complex tentacles with swiveling hooks, it could open up entirely new avenues for research. Researchers could gain a far deeper understanding of its anatomy, observing how these features actually function in its extreme environment.
Right, not just drawings or preserved parts, but how it works.
Precisely. And beyond just the static anatomy, it could shed light on its elusive behavior, like how does it hunt? Does it use those enormous forward-facing eyes, the largest eyes in the animal kingdom, by the way, to detect faint bioluminescence from prey in that perpetual darkness?
A good question.
How does it ambush its prey? How does it consume it? And how does it evade predators like the mighty sperm whale, its primary known foe? We might get clues.
So it's not just about what it looks like, but how it lives and, well, thrives in such an extreme hostile environment.
Exactly. It could also offer crucial clues about its reproductive strategies, which are currently entirely unknown. We have no idea how they mate or where they lay eggs. And fundamentally, this discovery could provide invaluable information about the ecological role of the colossal squid. As one of the apex predators in the deep-sea food web, its behavior, its population dynamics, its interactions, they have ripple effects on oceanic ecosystems that we barely comprehend.
So understanding it helps us understand the whole deep-sea system better.
Yes. By understanding its interactions and life cycle, we can build a more complete, more accurate picture of the complex deep-sea environment. which arguably remains the least explored part of our planet. This rare glimpse isn't just about curiosity. If this reveal helps us understand its unique adaptations, maybe how it handles pressure or its visual system, it could offer surprising insights, maybe for biomimicry, inspiring deep-sea exploration technology, or even new material science based on its resilience. It could truly accelerate our understanding of deep-sea biology.
Fascinating. From the mysterious depths to the vastness of space. We're now turning our attention to someone who helps us see the cosmos in a whole new way. Sophia Roberts. She's an award-winning astrophysics science video producer at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. Sounds like she's got one of the coolest jobs imaginable, making the universe accessible to millions.
She certainly does. And what's truly inspiring here is how Sophia Roberts has forged this unique career path by seamlessly fusing, rigorous scientific exploration with compelling visual storytelling. Her path wasn't exactly a straight line either. It began with a childhood passion for photography. Then she pursued a formal education in biology.
Biology first. Interesting.
Yes. But it was her master's program in filmmaking that truly bridged her scientific curiosity with her visual talents. That allowed her to start transforming complex scientific data into engaging narratives people could actually connect with.
That's a fantastic example, isn't it? How diverse interests in seemingly disparate fields can lead to something really groundbreaking. So, how does she make the leap from biology and filmmaking into NASA's orbit, documenting some of the most ambitious space missions we've ever undertaken?
Well, her journey into NASA apparently began with outreach work and educational presentations. Her ability to communicate complex scientific ideas visually quickly stood out. This eventually led her to pivotal video production roles, where she's documented some of NASA's most significant endeavors. Notably, she played a key role in the James Webb Space Telescope mission.
Ah, the JWST.
Exactly. And she actually won a prestigious Webby Award for her broadcast covering its journey, from Earth out into deep space, making that incredibly complex mission feel compelling and understandable. And she's now contributing her expertise to the upcoming Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope. That's another cutting-edge project poised to revolutionize our understanding of things like dark energy and exoplanets.
Winning a Webby for broadcasting the James Webb deployment. That's like winning an Oscar for science communication. That's amazing. Can you give us a glimpse behind the scenes of her work? What kind of intricate moments does she actually capture? It can't all be launches and pretty pictures from space.
Oh, absolutely not. Her work goes far, far beyond just pointing a camera at a finished telescope. She's been deep behind the scenes, capturing these incredibly intricate moments in space hardware development, which requires just unbelievable precision and often takes place in highly controlled environments. We're talking filming inside pristine, clean rooms where even a tiny speck of dust could compromise sensitive equipment.
Right, those suits and everything.
Exactly. And documenting grueling tests in massive thermal vacuum chambers, these huge rooms that meticulously simulate the harsh conditions of space, the extreme cold and vacuum. She's even traveled to, get this, beryllium mines in Utah. That's where this crucial lightweight material used for telescope mirrors is sourced.
Wow, from the mine to the launch pad.
Pretty much. Her role involves producing both that visually stunning behind-the-scenes footage showing the human effort and educational content that demystifies complex astrophysics for the public. It's really about making the unseen visible and the complicated understandable, celebrating the human ingenuity that underpins these cosmic endeavors.
That's amazing, showing us not just the final images from space, which are incredible, but the sheer dedication and brilliant minds that go into making them possible. So, what's the core message Sophia Roberts emphasizes about the power of visuals in science? And what's her advice maybe for aspiring science communicators?
She consistently emphasizes the powerful, almost irreplaceable role of visual media in truly engaging audiences with science. In her view, visuals aren't just supplementary, they are fundamental. They bridge the gap between cutting-edge research and public understanding. Science can often feel abstract, right? Technical, inaccessible sometimes. But a well-crafted visual story can make it immediate, relatable, even emotionally resonant. It can inspire awe and curiosity.
Makes sense. A picture's worth 1,000 equations sometimes.
Perhaps. She firmly believes that images and videos can spark wonder, convey complex concepts in a way that dense text alone often cannot, and even help people connect with the human stories behind the scientific discovery. Her encouragement for aspiring science communicators is pretty clear. Embrace technology and storytelling. She urges them to leverage new tools, new platforms, creative narratives, whatever it takes to bring scientific research to life. make it exciting and relevant for a broader audience.
So it's about translating the intricate language of science into a universal visual language.
Exactly. A language that captivates, informs, and hopefully inspires the next generation of explorers and scientists.
Very cool. Speaking of our amazing planet, we have an intriguing report next. It shows just how dynamic Earth truly is, often in ways we barely perceive. It seems our planet's rotation will briefly speed up on 3 specific days this upcoming summer: July 9th, July 22nd, and August 5th, 2023. It's almost like Earth is giving itself a little boost, saying, let's pick up the pace. A bit odd, no?
It is fascinating, isn't it? And it really speaks to the subtle yet constant interactions happening within our solar system and even within Earth itself. This forecasted acceleration of Earth's rotation, it's actually a natural occurrence. It's tied directly to the moon's gravitational impact, and specifically, its relative distance from the Earth's equator at certain points in its orbit. While our planet generally maintains a remarkably stable rotation speed, it does experience these minute, almost imperceptible variations in the length of a day.
Okay, so it's not some dramatic sudden jolt, but a very, very subtle shift. How exactly does the moon's gravity play into this? And how do we even measure such tiny changes? Are we talking fractions of a second here?
Oh, we are indeed talking about mere fractions of a millisecond. Tiny, tiny amounts of time. These variations are observed with incredible precision using highly precise atomic clocks. These clocks are so accurate they can detect changes in the Earth's rotation down to microseconds, millionths of a second.
Atomic clocks.
So the gravitational pull of the moon, and to a lesser extent the sun, creates tidal bulges on Earth's oceans, and even on the solid body of the Earth itself. As the Earth rotates through these bulges, it creates friction. Now, over very long geological periods, this friction generally slows down the Earth's rotation. Days are actually getting slightly longer over millennia.
Okay, I think I've heard that.
But there are also shorter-term variations. These can be influenced by factors like atmospheric pressure changes, strong winds, ocean currents, even seismic activity deep within the Earth's core and mantle. It's a complex system. In this specific case, for these dates, it seems the moon's precise position relative to the equator, combined with these other internal and atmospheric factors, is predicted to cause a temporary, very slight acceleration.
So it's a combination of things lining up just right.
Essentially, yes. It's a complex interplay of forces.
No.
And while the forecasted acceleration for these specific dates is a bit unusual in its predictability, it's still well within the range of normal, albeit small, variations that scientists continuously monitor using those atomic clocks.
Okay, so while it's intriguing for scientists, what does this actually mean for us down here? Will our days feel shorter? Should we be adjusting our clocks or, I don't know, expect any noticeable changes to things like GPS accuracy?
That's a very practical and important question, and the good news is no. The predicted increase in rotation speed is not expected to have any significant, noticeable impact on daily life or Earth's environment for us.
Yeah.
We won't feel our days being shorter, not by milliseconds. And there are no anticipated effects on weather patterns, global positioning systems, or geological activity. GPS systems already account for tiny relativistic effects far larger than this. This phenomenon really remains primarily a subject of scientific interest. It contributes to our broader understanding of the complex planetary interactions that affect Earth's rotation. It's more a testament to the incredible precision of modern scientific instruments that we can even detect such minuscule changes.
Right. It shows how well we can measure things now.
Exactly. It offers deeper insights into the fundamental dynamics of our planet and its celestial neighbors. So, no need to reset your watches or worry about your GPS just yet.
That's a relief. Okay,
Yeah.
from the grand scale of planetary dynamics to the incredibly intricate world of human biology, we have an exciting medical breakthrough to discuss. This could potentially fight vision loss. Scientists have reportedly discovered a new protein called APOM.
Yes, this is indeed a very promising development, especially in the fight against a truly debilitating disease. This protein, APOM, has been found to have the remarkable ability to clear away harmful cholesterol deposits. And crucially, these specific deposits are frequently associated with macular degeneration, which, as you know, is currently one of the leading causes of vision loss globally, particularly affecting central vision as people age.
Macular degeneration, yeah, that affects so many people. It's such a tough diagnosis. Can you elaborate a bit on how these cholesterol deposits actually cause vision loss and how this new protein, APOM, could potentially intervene?
Certainly. Macular degeneration, specifically the age-related form, or AMD, it directly affects the macula. That's a small but absolutely crucial part of the retina at the back of the eye. This area is responsible for our sharp, detailed central vision, the vision we use for vital tasks like reading, recognizing faces, or driving safely.
Right, the really focused vision.
Exactly. In AMD, a common feature is the accumulation of these yellowish deposits known as drusen beneath the retina. These drusen are basically made up of various lipids, including cholesterol and proteins, waste products essentially. Over time, the relentless buildup of these deposits can damage and eventually destroy the light-sensitive photoreceptor cells in the macula. That leads to a progressive loss of central vision. Things might look blurry, or you might develop bothersome dark spots right in the center of your sight.
Okay, so the drusen buildup is a key part of the problem.
It's a hallmark of the disease, yes. So the discovery that APOM can effectively clear away these harmful cholesterol deposits is profoundly significant because it seems to directly address a potential root cause, or at least a major contributing factor in this degenerative process. If APOM can effectively reduce or prevent the accumulation of drusen, well, it could offer a completely novel way to slow down, or maybe even potentially halt, the progression of vision loss in affected individuals, improving their quality of life significantly.
That sounds like a huge potential breakthrough.
Yeah.
Really hopeful. What are the broader implications of these findings? Does this discovery just apply to macular degeneration, or could it have wider applications beyond just eye health?
That's a great question. The findings certainly add compelling evidence to a growing understanding. Controlling cholesterol levels isn't just crucial for cardiovascular health, but also for preserving vision and maybe overall well-being. While the immediate target disease for APOM research is macular degeneration, the mechanism APOM clearing cholesterol deposits suggests potentially far broader implications. Well, cholesterol deposits aren't unique to the eye, are they? They are absolutely central to the development and progression of conditions like atherosclerosis. That's the hardening and narrowing of arteries, the underlying cause of major cardiovascular diseases like heart attacks and strokes.
Right. Same kind of buildup, different location.
Potentially a similar mechanism involved. So understanding precisely how APOM functions could provide a completely new direction for preventative measures against a whole range of degenerative diseases. It could potentially extend its therapeutic reach far beyond the ocular system. This research significantly furthers our understanding of the complex biochemistry involved in both eye health and cardiovascular health. It could potentially open doors for novel therapeutic strategies that target cholesterol metabolism to improve health outcomes across multiple organ systems. It's a very exciting and potentially interconnected piece of the biochemical puzzle.
That's truly fascinating, how a discovery in one specific area, like the eye, could have such far-reaching and systemic implications. Amazing stuff. Okay, moving from the wonders of biology and space, let's now dive into the evolving digital landscape, exploring cutting-edge technology and its multifaceted societal impact. This realm is moving at just an incredible pace, isn't it? And it's clearly a double-edged sword in many ways.
Indeed, this area truly embodies both immense potential for progress and, at the same time, significant, often complex challenges, particularly concerning things like job markets, ethical considerations, and regulatory frameworks. It's a minefield almost.
Let's start with AI's impact on the job market. That's a growing concern for, well, pretty much everyone. Our sources highlight that Anthropic, a major AI company, is actually launching a program specifically to track AI's economic fallout. Apparently, this is in response to predictions of significant job losses due to artificial intelligence. That certainly sounds like a big deal coming from within the industry itself.
It is a profound signal, absolutely. Anthropic's initiative reflects a proactive, yet also somewhat stark, acknowledgement from within the tech industry itself that AI isn't just about efficiency gains or cool new tools. It's likely to cause substantial, maybe even widespread, disruption in the workforce. This program aims to offer significant research grants and host public forums to thoroughly investigate and understand the economic consequences of widespread AI adoption.
So they're trying to get ahead of it, or at least understand it better.
That seems to be the idea. The core concern is that as AI systems become more capable, more ubiquitous, they could automate a vast range of tasks previously performed by humans across all sorts of sectors, creative, analytical, administrative.
Leading to potentially significant job displacement.
That's the fear, yes. Anthropic's move suggests an attempt to, well, perhaps get ahead of this potential crisis by rigorously monitoring its development, identifying affected areas, maybe with a view towards eventually developing solutions or mitigation strategies, or even completely new models for the future of work. It's a tacit admission that this is a serious issue they need to track.
Right. So on one hand, we have AI potentially taking jobs, and on the other, we seem to have a clear regulatory vacuum, or at least a debate about how to fill it. It's reported that the U.S. Congress might actually block state AI laws for a decade. What does this mean for the future of AI regulation in the U.S.? This could be seen as either a move to spur innovation or maybe to prevent crucial protections from being put in place too quickly.
This is a really significant development, and it highlights that core tension between wanting rapid innovation and needing thoughtful oversight. If Congress does indeed block state AI laws for a decade, it means individual states, California, New York, Illinois, wherever, would be prohibited from enacting or enforcing any law or regulations specifically concerning AI models, AI systems, or automated decision systems.
For 10 years, that's a long time in tech.
It's an eternity in AI development. The likely intent behind such a move is to create a uniform national framework for AI, to prevent a confusing patchwork of conflicting state-level regulations that could arguably stifle innovation, create legal headaches for AI developers, or burden businesses operating across state lines.
So the argument is for consistency, avoid 50 different sets of rules.
Exactly. From one perspective, this centralizes power and aims for efficiency in regulation. Let the federal government figure it out once.
Okay, but what are the potential downsides? What about consumer protections or specific ethical guidelines that maybe one state feels strongly about?
That's the other side of the coin. This centralization of power could lead to slower, perhaps less responsive regulation overall. The federal legislative process, as we know, can be very protracted and subject to intense lobbying. It also means that for 10 years, the primary power to regulate AI would rest solely with the federal government. This potentially sidelines localized concerns or prevents states from experimenting with different regulatory approaches, experiments that could actually inform better national policy down the line.
So states couldn't act even if they saw an urgent need.
That's the concern. It creates this waiting period where states are effectively sidelined, potentially delaying important consumer protections or ethical guidelines around things like algorithmic bias, discrimination, or data privacy that local governments might deem urgent. It's a bold move, really. It clearly prioritizes a unified market and arguably unfettered innovation over immediate localized regulatory action. It forces a national reckoning eventually on that balance between speed and safety in AI development, but puts state-level action on hold for a significant period.
And speaking of privacy, which is always a hot-button issue with tech, Facebook, or Meta, has announced it will start using private and unpublished photos to train its AI. That immediately raises a lot of...
That seems to be the implication, yes. The stated goal is usually to improve AI capabilities, things like better image recognition, more effective content moderation, or even training generative AI to create new images. However, the core issue revolves around the interpretation of consent and the erosion of privacy expectations. Many users might reasonably assume that private or unpublished content remains just that, private and exclusively under their control.
I think most people would assume that.
Right. The ethical concern arises when the boundaries of data usage expand beyond what users explicitly or maybe even implicitly agreed to when they initially uploaded their content, possibly years ago under different terms of service. It challenges the very definition of private on these platforms, and it raises fundamental questions about whether users can truly control how their data, even their non-public data, is ultimately used by tech giants for their commercial interests, like improving their AI products.
It feels like the terms are always shifting under our feet.
It certainly highlights the ongoing tension between rapid technological advancement and individual privacy rights in the digital age. It definitely sparks a necessary debate about data ownership, transparency, and platform responsibility. What exactly are we agreeing to?
A debate we definitely need to have. Okay, shifting gears slightly within tech, let's look at some broader industry trends and the shifting sands within its competitive landscape. We've got updates on venture capital, legal intersections, talent acquisition, and some significant leadership changes at major companies.
Indeed. The tech industry is just this constant whirlwind of innovation, competition, and yes, occasional chaos. These trends highlight both its relentless dynamism and maybe some underlying challenges in an increasingly complex environment.
Let's touch on venture capital first. Jason Krause's session at TechCrunch All-Stage 2025 offered insights to VCs on transforming chaos into momentum. Sounds very relevant right now.
Absolutely. In the fast-paced world of venture capital, especially with economic uncertainty and rapid tech shifts like AI, adaptability is key. Cross's session likely focused on how VCs can navigate market volatility, identify opportunities amidst disruption, and make strategic decisions quickly. It's about not just surviving chaos, but leveraging it, finding momentum where others see only risk. Essential advice for investors in this climate.
And the intersection of tech and law is also evolving. Startups Weekly apparently delved into regulatory challenges and legal innovations shaping the framework for tech startups.
This is crucial. As tech gets more complex, think AI ethics, data privacy laws like GDPR, crypto regulation startups face a much more complicated legal landscape than, say, 10 years ago. Understanding these evolving rules, finding innovative legal solutions, maybe using tech for compliance. It's becoming fundamental for startup success, not just an afterthought.
Okay, now talent acquisition. We mentioned AI earlier. Meta is reportedly offering multi-million-dollar pay packages to AI researchers for its superintelligence lab. Now, clarification noted, it's not the rumored $100 million signing bonuses that grabbed headlines, but still, multi-million-dollar packages. That's a massive investment in talent, showing just how high the stakes are in the AI race.
It is a clear and, frankly, unequivocal signal of the intense global competition for top-tier AI talent. While those $100 million rumors were apparently inflated, the reality of multi-million-dollar packages is still extraordinarily high. It reflects the immense strategic importance placed on leading AI researchers. Companies like Meta, Google, OpenAI, they're investing heavily in these superintelligence labs or equivalent research divisions to push the boundaries of AI capabilities, from foundational models to completely new applications.
So it's a talent war, basically.
Absolutely. Attracting the best minds in this field often means offering not just extraordinary compensation, but also unparalleled research environments, computational resources, and the promise of working on groundbreaking projects. It highlights that the race for AI dominance is fundamentally a race for talent. These researchers are seen as critical assets whose work can literally define a company's future trajectory in this rapidly evolving landscape.
And finally, on industry shifts, Intel's top strategy officer is set to depart this month. What could such a significant leadership change mean for a tech giant like Intel, especially as they're trying to regain their footing in the semiconductor market against tough competition?
Any leadership change at that high and executive level, especially the chief strategy officer, can have profound implications for a major company like Intel. The top strategy officer is typically responsible for charting the company's long-term vision, identifying new market opportunities, guiding major investments, maybe overseeing strategic partnerships. Their departure could signal a number of things. Well, it could signal a deliberate shift in strategic direction, maybe a reevaluation of core priorities, or even just internal restructuring, a different approach being favored. For Intel, a company currently navigating really intense competition in the semiconductor industry, from rivals like AMD and NVIDIA, plus the rise of custom silicon from Apple and others, and simultaneously trying to stage a major comeback in manufacturing and AI chip development.
Yeah.
Well, such a change could impact everything.
Their whole roadmap could change.
Eventually, it could affect their product roadmaps, their R&D investments, their competitive positioning, even their overall market perception. Investors and analysts will definitely be watching very closely to see who replaces this officer and what signals that sends about Intel's future strategic decisions and how they plan to accelerate their turnaround efforts. It's a critical role at a critical time for them.
Definitely one to watch. Okay, let's pivot now to consumer tech and crucially critical infrastructure security. We've got some updates ranging from gaming consoles to serious cybersecurity warnings.
Yeah, this really highlights the broad reach of technology, doesn't it? From the everyday conveniences and entertainment it offers, right through to the profound risks it can introduce to essential services we all rely on.
Let's start light with gaming. The Switch 2 is apparently facing some criticism due to its screen response time. Reports say it's slow compared to other gaming displays, and testing its screen efficiently is proving a challenge for users.
The perennial challenge of portable gaming hardware. Screen performance, especially response time and refresh rate, is critical for a smooth gaming experience, particularly in fast-paced games. If the Switch 2's screen lags behind competitors like the Steam Deck OLED or even high-end smartphones, that could be a significant drawback for serious gamers. And the difficulty users face in accurately testing it just adds frustration. It suggests Nintendo might have made compromises, perhaps for battery life or cost, that might not sit well with the enthusiast crowd.
Always trade-offs, I suppose. Now, social media's evolution continues. TikTok is reportedly testing a new feature called bulletin boards. It allows brands and creators to share public, one-to-many messages to their followers. Sounds a bit like Instagram's broadcast channels.
It does sound very similar, yes. This seems to be part of a trend across platforms to provide creators with tools for more direct, albeit still public, communication with their audience, bypassing the main feed algorithm to some extent. For brands, it's another channel for announcements or promotions. For creators, it's a way to foster a tighter community feel. It shows TikTok constantly experimenting to keep users engaged and offer more tools, likely borrowing successful ideas from competitors.
Speaking of borrowing or expanding, Google is working on bringing YouTube Create, its video editing app, to iOS devices. It launched first on Android, and now they're apparently hiring engineers in India specifically for this iOS development.
That makes sense. YouTube is obviously huge on iOS, and providing a dedicated, easy-to-use mobile editing app like YouTube, Create directly competes with tools like CapCut or even iMovie. Bringing it to iOS expands its potential user base significantly, especially among creators who prefer Apple's ecosystem. The hiring in India also reflects the global nature of tech development and potentially tapping into specific talent pools there. It's about making the YouTube ecosystem stickier for creators on all platforms.
Okay, now for the serious part. Cybersecurity on high alert. The FBI and cybersecurity firms have issued a stark warning. A prolific hacking crew known as Scattered Spider is now targeting airlines and the transportation sector. This sounds incredibly serious, posing significant risks not just to data, but potentially to critical industries and even passenger safety.
This is an extremely alarming development, yes, and the warning cannot be overstated. Scattered Spider is notorious. They're known for highly sophisticated and often very persistent cyber attacks. They frequently use cunning social engineering tactics like tricking employees over the phone or via SMS to gain initial access to corporate networks.
So they're good at getting that first foot in the door.
Very good. And their shift towards targeting critical infrastructure like airlines and the broader transportation sector poses grave national security concerns. These sectors are foundational, right, to modern economies, supply chains, daily life. A successful cyber attack could lead to widespread disruption. Think grounded flights, paralyzed logistics networks impacting deliveries, massive data theft of passenger information.
And potentially worse.
Potentially worse. The most critical concern is the direct risk to physical safety. Imagine interference with air traffic control systems, compromised train signaling, or disruption to logistics systems that manage critical supplies. The potential for chaos and harm is immense. The FBI's warning underscores the urgent need for these industries to absolutely fortify their digital defenses, implement robust cybersecurity protocols, and, crucially, rigorously train their personnel to recognize and resist these social engineering attempts. Because the implications of such breaches extend far beyond financial loss, they directly impact public trust and fundamental safety.
That's a really stark reminder of our digital vulnerabilities in critical areas. Scary stuff. Lastly, in the ever-evolving crypto world, we have Vitalik Buterin, a key figure in Ethereum, obviously expressing significant reservations about Sam Altman's World Project, or WorldCoin. His concern apparently centers on its approach of using zero-knowledge proofs to verify human identity, specifically using iris scans while attempting to protect anonymity. What's the issue there?
Buterin's reservations are highly significant, mainly because he's arguably one of the most respected and, frankly, technically astute voices in the whole blockchain space. He's known for his deep technical understanding and his commitment to core crypto principles like decentralization and privacy. His concern with Sam Altman's WorldCoin project, which, as you said, aims to create this global identity system where users scan their irises using a special orb device in exchange for a unique digital ID, and some crypto, revolves around the really delicate and precarious balance between verifying that someone is a unique human, proof of personhood, and genuinely preserving individual anonymity, even when using advanced cryptographic techniques like zero-knowledge proofs.
I thought zero-knowledge proofs were supposed to protect privacy.
They are a powerful tool, yes. They're designed to allow verification of some piece of information, like this iris scan is unique and belongs to a real person, without revealing the underlying data itself, the actual iris scan biometric data. However, Buterin highlights potential, maybe subtle risks to privacy and security when this technology is applied to such a fundamental and sensitive biometric identifier like an iris scan, especially at global scale.
What kind of risks?
He's concerned about things like the potential for future centralization of power or data, even if the system aims to be decentralized initially. Who controls the orbs? Who controls the root keys? What happens if the biometric data, even in hashed form, is somehow compromised or linked back to individuals later? Can the system truly prevent sophisticated imposters or coercion while maintaining robust privacy guarantees in the long run? His skepticism prompts essential critical thinking about the long-term implications and potential vulnerabilities of these large-scale digital identity projects, particularly concerning the very real-world impact on individual data autonomy, security, and privacy. It's a vital debate for the future of digital identity, especially one tied to biometrics.
It definitely sounds like the promise of privacy in tech often comes with a complex set of caveats and trade-offs that need rigorous ongoing debate. Very important. Okay, let's shift gears now quite significantly to the global stage. Let's dive into geopolitical currents and diplomatic maneuvers. This is where the world's complex narrative truly unfolds, often with multiple layers of motivation and interpretation.
Indeed. These are the narratives that shape nations, global relationships, and often have long-lasting implications for peace, stability, and conflict. And as you said earlier, we'll navigate through these developments with a firm commitment to presenting all perspectives fairly, allowing you, the listener, to draw your own conclusions from the reported information.
Okay, we have a potentially historic agreement to discuss first. The signing of a long-awaited U.S.-brokered peace deal between the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, and Rwanda. This happened in Washington. It seems to mark a significant step toward resolving long-standing, often violent tensions in a really vital and resource-rich region of Central Africa.
This agreement is indeed being framed as a substantial diplomatic achievement. It aims to bring much-needed stability to a region, particularly eastern DRC, that has endured decades of incredibly complex, brutal conflict involving numerous armed groups and proxy forces. The deal, as reported, primarily focuses on the disengagement, disarmament, and importantly, the conditional integration of various armed groups operating in eastern DR Congo.
Okay, so getting the fighters off the battlefield.
That's the core idea. These armed groups, some allegedly backed by neighboring states, including Rwanda, have been a persistent source of instability, violence, and human rights abuses. They often cross borders, exacerbating regional tensions between the DRC and Rwanda. The immediate goal stated in the deal is to demobilize these groups and, where appropriate, integrate former combatants into either the National Congolese Army or back into civilian life. This aims to directly reduce the immediate threat of violence and foster broader cooperation between the two nations.
That sounds incredibly positive on the surface. A clear win for diplomacy, reducing conflict. However, our sources also suggest there's potentially a deeper layer to this. Reports link the agreement to a simultaneous U.S. push for access to significant mineral rights in the DRC. How do we reconcile President Trump celebrating this as a major diplomatic triumph with these reports suggesting resource-driven motivations might also be at play?
This is a classic example, really, of how international diplomacy often operates with multiple, intertwined layers and motivations. These can be interpreted very differently depending on one's perspective or which sources you prioritize. President Trump did indeed celebrate the deal publicly as a significant diplomatic achievement, emphasizing its role in promoting peace and security in Africa. And achieving peace, or even a reduction in violence, is undoubtedly a commendable outcome in itself, regardless of other factors. But other reports, including from outlets like RT and CBS News, suggest that while the official text of the agreement might focus primarily on security arrangements and explicitly mentions only expanding trade and investment in regional mineral value chains, there's an underlying, perhaps less explicit, U.S. push for greater access to the DRC's vast mineral wealth.
And the DRC is incredibly rich in certain minerals, isn't it?
Immensely so. The Democratic Republic of Congo holds huge reserves of vital minerals like cobalt, essential for electric vehicle batteries, copper, diamonds, gold, and coltan, which is crucial for smartphones and other electronics. These are resources absolutely critical for modern technologies and therefore global economic competition.
So on one hand, it's presented as diplomacy driven purely by peace. On the other, there are clear strategic economic interests potentially involved. It sounds like both things could actually be true at the same time.
Precisely. That's often the reality of geopolitics. The agreement reportedly outlines a 90-day withdrawal of Rwandan troops from specified areas in the DRC and establishes a new joint security mechanism. Now, while these provisions are undeniably aimed at reducing conflict and improving stability on the ground, the broader context of resource competition suggests that the pursuit of peace can often be deeply intertwined with economic and strategic interests. They aren't necessarily mutually exclusive.
Peace through partnership, maybe with benefits.
You could frame it that way. It highlights the complexities of international relations, where humanitarian goals, security concerns, and geopolitical resource needs can sometimes align or at least become codependent forces shaping outcomes. It's really important for listeners, for all of us, to consider these multiple perspectives to fully grasp the nuances of such agreements, rather than viewing them through a single simplistic lens. Both interpretations, a significant diplomatic step for peace and a strategic move related to resource access, can hold elements of truth depending on the emphasis and the evidence considered.
Very complex indeed. Okay, from African diplomacy, let's pivot to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. This continues to dominate headlines and fundamentally shape global alliances and security discussions. First, a stark statement. Russian President Vladimir Putin has reportedly confirmed his desire for all of Ukraine. This seems like a deeply significant statement of ambition, leaving very little room for ambiguity about Russia's ultimate goals.
It is indeed a clear and, unequivocal statement reported from Putin. If accurate, it signals that Russia's maximalist goals in the conflict may not have diminished, despite the protracted nature of the war and heavy losses. This ambition for all of Ukraine goes far beyond just the previously annexed territories like Crimea or consolidating control over the Donbas region. It indicates a fundamental challenge to Ukraine's very sovereignty and its continued existence as an independent state within its current borders.
Which obviously is completely unacceptable to Ukraine and its allies.
Absolutely. This declaration underscores the deep-seated, perhaps existential nature of the conflict from Moscow's perspective, and suggests that any potential negotiated resolution would face immense hurdles, as it would have to address this core Russian objective, which is directly opposed to Ukraine's national interests and the substantial support it receives from the West.
And in response to that ongoing Russian pressure, Europe and Canada are reportedly stepping up their military aid, pledging a substantial $35 billion in collective support to Ukraine. How is this Western commitment balancing against Putin's stated goals? What message does it send to Moscow?
This significant financial and military pledge from European nations and Canada is a direct counter to those maximalist Russian ambitions. It demonstrates a continued, robust commitment by Western allies to significantly strengthen Ukraine's defense capabilities and ensure its ability to resist Russian aggression over the long term. This aid includes not just financial assistance, but critically advanced weapon systems, large quantities of ammunition, intelligence support, and extensive training for Ukrainian forces. All of these are vital for Ukraine to hold its current lines, defend its territory effectively, and potentially build capacity for future counteroffensives to reclaim occupied areas.
So a signal of enduring support.
Yes, it signifies a collective determination among key allies to support Ukraine's sovereignty and resilience, refusing to let it be overwhelmed. Although, of course, the scale and speed of aid delivery are constantly being evaluated against the immediate, intense needs on the battlefield and the perceived pace and pressure of Russian military operations.
But even within NATO, there seems to be an internal debate brewing, particularly among European members. There's growing concern about increasing their reliance on U.S. weapons and military systems. This seems especially sensitive, given the potential future leadership of former President Donald Trump, considering his past rhetoric about NATO and alliances.
This is a crucial point, really, touching on the long-term future of NATO and the concept of European strategic autonomy. European NATO members are indeed growing increasingly concerned about their deep, sometimes overwhelming dependence on U.S. military hardware, technology, and logistical support. This concern has been amplified by Trump's past skepticism about the value of NATO commitments, his transactional view of alliances, and his occasional overtures towards Russia, all of which have unnerved many traditional European allies.
They worry the U.S. might not always be there or might attach difficult conditions.
Exactly. There's a strong push, particularly championed by figures like French President Emmanuel Macron, but echoed elsewhere, for a more autonomous and robust European defense industry and capability. The argument is that relying too heavily on a single dominant supplier, especially one whose political leadership might be unpredictable or whose foreign policy priorities could dramatically shift, creates a significant strategic vulnerability for European security.
So they want to be able to stand more on their own feet, militarily.
Precisely. This debate highlights a profound desire within parts of Europe for greater strategic autonomy, more self-sufficiency in defense production, and a more resilient defense capability overall, even as they continue to face a very assertive Russia on their eastern doorstep and value the NATO alliance. It's about finding a new balance within the transatlantic relationship. Examples cited include Canada reconsidering the F-35 fighter jet program and political resistance in Denmark to certain dependencies.
A complex balancing act. And then adding another layer of complexity, we have Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. He has issued a really stark warning, hasn't he, saying that Ukrainian accession to NATO would trigger immediate conflict with Russia, potentially igniting World War III. He's reportedly called the EU's push to integrate Ukraine insanity. This is a significant dissenting voice from within both the EU and NATO.
Orban's statement is indeed a significant outlier, though perhaps not entirely surprising given his history. It highlights a deep and persistent division within both the NATO alliance and the European Union regarding strategy towards Russia and Ukraine. His warning reflects Hungary's consistent and long-held opposition to several key Western policies, sending weapons directly to Ukraine, imposing sweeping sanctions on Russia, which Hungary feels harm its own economy, and crucially, NATO expansion, particularly to include Ukraine.
He sees NATO expansion as the red line.
He explicitly frames it that way. He argues that integrating Ukraine with its ongoing hot conflict with Russia and disputed territories directly into the NATO military alliance would cross an existential red line for Moscow. He fears this would inevitably lead to a direct military confrontation between NATO and Russia, potentially on a scale that could engulf Europe and escalate, in his words, into a global conflict, a World War III scenario.
And his insanity comment about the EU push.
That underscores his belief that Brussels, in pursuing Ukraine's rapid integration into the EU as well, is taking reckless steps that ignore geopolitical realities and could lead to catastrophic consequences, both militarily and economically. Hungary has acted on this belief, haven't they? They've consistently opposed sending weapons through their territory, argued against sanctions, and even reportedly held up joint EU statements supporting Ukraine and stalled aspects of Kyiv's EU accession talks, which require unanimous approval from all member states.
Why such strong opposition, beyond the security fears?
Orban also raises concerns about Ukraine's unstable borders, its large population, and the potential economic impacts of full EU integration, for instance. The effect of cheap Ukrainian agricultural products potentially undercutting Hungarian farmers and other Eastern European producers. His stance reflects a unique national interest perspective, often prioritizing relations with Moscow and challenging the broader EU and NATO consensus. This creates significant internal friction at a very critical geopolitical moment.
The complexities there are truly immense. It shows deep fault lines exist, even among allies facing a common challenge. Now, let's shift our focus to the Middle East, a region always, it seems, at the heart of geopolitical discussions, with new flashpoints emerging and alliances constantly shifting.
This region remains incredibly volatile, yes, and recent reports highlight not only ongoing conflict but also severe humanitarian concerns and the complex, often opaque diplomatic maneuvers by global powers trying to navigate the situation, often with their own intricate, sometimes unspoken motivations.
We have some incredibly disturbing allegations emerging from Gaza. Reports suggest Israeli soldiers have admitted that the Israeli army is intentionally targeting unarmed Palestinian aid seekers. This is a revelation, if confirmed, that has sparked widespread outrage and grave human rights concerns, with some reports even mentioning specific orders to shoot.
This is indeed a deeply troubling development. If these allegations are substantiated through independent investigation, they would undoubtedly generate widespread condemnation from human rights organizations, the UN, and international bodies. Admissions from soldiers, if accurately reported, that the army is allegedly intentionally targeting unarmed civilians, particularly those desperately seeking essential aid in a conflict zone, raise extremely serious questions about adherence to international humanitarian law and the fundamental rules of engagement.
These are laws designed to protect civilians in war.
Exactly. Such actions, if proven true, would be in stark violation of core principles that mandate the protection of civilians, especially vulnerable populations attempting to access life-saving assistance. These allegations point to a potentially dire human rights situation on the ground, exacerbating the already severe humanitarian crisis in Gaza, where access to food, water, and medical care is critically limited. The reports, including those mentioning alleged orders to shoot, highlight the urgent need for transparency, accountability, and thorough, independent investigations into any alleged abuses. It underscores the critical importance of protecting humanitarian corridors and ensuring the safety of civilian lives amidst the conflict.
Amidst this grim situation, the UN chief has also expressed strong concerns, stating that the current Gaza aid plan, as it's being implemented, should not be a death sentence. He's apparently deemed the operation unsafe, potentially jeopardizing lives further.
Yes, the UN Secretary General's warnings reflect deep concerns within the humanitarian community about the safety and effectiveness of aid delivery mechanisms into Gaza. Criticisms often focus on insufficient security guarantees for aid convoys and personnel, complex and restrictive inspection processes, damage to infrastructure, and the general dangers of operating in an active conflict zone. The death sentence comment likely refers to the risks faced by both aid workers trying to deliver assistance and civilians trying to access it, potentially being caught in crossfire or targeted. It underscores the immense challenges in getting sufficient aid safely to the millions in desperate need.
Moving to the broader regional tensions, particularly between the U.S., Iran, and Israel, President Trump has reportedly stated he would absolutely consider bombing Iran again if necessary. He also reaffirmed his claim that Iran's nuclear facilities have been obliterated, though the extent of that is debated.
This kind of rhetoric significantly raises the temperature in an already tense region. President Trump's statement reflects his administration's previous maximum pressure campaign against Iran and keeps the option of military force explicitly on the table in potential future scenarios. His claim about obliterating nuclear facilities is likely an exaggeration or refers to specific past actions or sanctions impact, as most intelligence assessments suggest Iran retains significant nuclear infrastructure and enrichment capabilities. Such statements increase uncertainty and the risk of miscalculation between Washington and Tehran.
In this volatile mix, what's particularly fascinating is Russia's reported nuanced diplomatic role in the escalating Iran-Israel conflict. Our sources highlight how Moscow seems to navigate complex alliances, maintaining channels with all parties without taking overtly partisan sides.
Russia's position in the Middle East, particularly concerning the Iran-Israel dynamic, is indeed quite intricate and strategically calculated. It's very different from the U.S. approach. While the U.S. has a clear alliance with Israel and a deeply adversarial relationship with Iran, Russia manages to maintain relatively strong ties with both Iran and Israel. This unique positioning allows Moscow to play a distinct, albeit often controversial, diplomatic role.
How do they manage that, maintaining ties with two adversaries?
Well, Russia views Iran as a key regional partner, particularly in contexts like Syria, and shares some common interests regarding regional stability and countering Western influence. They've formalized strategic partnerships through recent agreements and high-level visits, including military technical cooperation. However, Russia also meticulously maintains open channels and a pragmatic relationship with Israel, despite tensions over issues like Israeli airstrikes on alleged Iranian targets in Syria, sometimes near Russian forces. They've generally avoided direct confrontation.
So they're walking a very fine diplomatic line. How does this nuanced approach translate into concrete actions on the international stage, like at the UN?
It means that while Russia consistently advocates for de-escalation and generally opposes foreign military interventions in the region, they often do so from this unique position of engagement with all major parties, not just picking one side. For instance, reports indicate that Russia, sometimes alongside countries like China and Pakistan, has spearheaded UN resolutions calling for immediate ceasefires or diplomatic solutions in various Middle East conflicts, including the current Gaza crisis. President Putin consistently stresses the importance of diplomatic solutions over direct military involvement publicly.
So they position themselves as potential mediators.
That seems to be part of their strategy. Their partnership with Iran, while involving significant cooperation, notably doesn't appear to include a formal mutual defense commitment like NATO's Article 5. This gives them flexibility. What's intriguing is that some reports suggest Russian diplomatic engagements, often happening behind the scenes, may be quietly influencing shifts in U.S. policies or calculations in the region more than is publicly acknowledged. This strategic ambiguity allows Russia to act as a potential, albeit sometimes distrusted, mediator in one of the world's most volatile regions, aiming to leverage its unique position to protect its own interests and enhance its global standing as a major power broker.
That truly highlights the intricate web of global power dynamics, doesn't it? The constant, complex dance of diplomacy, often with hidden steps. Amidst all this, there's still talk of ceasefire hopes in Gaza. President Trump has apparently expressed some optimism about a possible Gaza ceasefire within the next week, although reports note he provided no specific details on how that might happen.
Yes, expressions of optimism about ceasefires surface periodically from various leaders. Without concrete details or signs of agreement from the primary parties involved, Israel and Hamas, such statements often serve more as political signaling or expressions of hope rather than indicating an imminent breakthrough. The path to a sustainable ceasefire in Gaza remains extremely challenging, requiring agreement on complex issues like hostage releases, security arrangements, and governance for the future. Optimistic timelines need to be viewed with caution until tangible progress is evident.
Understood. Okay, Switching gears completely now. Let's bring it closer to home with a look at some significant domestic political shifts and policy changes in both the U.S. and the U.K., as well as other notable international domestic developments.
Yes, these developments reveal the unique challenges, internal debates, and evolving political landscapes within established democracies and other nations, covering everything from judicial decisions and welfare reform to immigration policy and surprising election results.
Let's start in the U.S. with the Supreme Court. A decision related to birthright citizenship has reportedly broadened former President Trump's potential executive power. Specifically, it impacts the enforcement of executive orders by limiting the scope of nationwide injunctions. What does this practically mean for policy implementation, potentially in a future Trump administration?
This Supreme Court decision, while perhaps technical on the surface, has genuinely significant practical implications for presidential executive power, regardless of who holds the office, but perhaps especially relevant given Trump's frequent use of executive orders. Birthright citizenship itself, the principle derived from the 14th Amendment granting citizenship to nearly all individuals born in the United States, remains a contentious legal and political issue, which Trump has previously pledged to challenge via executive action.
Right, he's talked about ending it by executive order.
Exactly. Now, the court's ruling, by significantly limiting the ability of federal district judges to issue nationwide injunctions, acts as a substantial procedural change that could aid such efforts, or indeed any controversial executive action. Previously, a single federal judge anywhere in the country could issue a nationwide injunction, effectively blocking a presidential executive order or a federal agency policy across the entire country while the case was litigated.
Which happened quite often during the Trump administration.
Frequently, by narrowing the circumstances under which these broad injunctions can be issued, the Supreme Court is making it harder for lower courts to halt federal policies universally and immediately. This means that if a president, like Trump, were to implement contentious executive orders, say, on immigration, environmental regulations, or indeed birthright citizenship, legal challenges would more likely be localized, perhaps only applying within that judge's specific district or circuit initially.
So the policy could go into effect elsewhere while being challenged in one place.
Potentially, yes. It could allow an administration to implement policies in large parts of the country, even if they are being actively litigated in specific jurisdictions. It effectively broadens the practical power of the executive branch to enact policies without being immediately shut down nationwide by a single court ruling. It allows more executive actions to proceed, at least regionally, while the often lengthy legal appeals process plays out. It tilts the balance slightly back towards the executive branch in these immediate legal confrontations.
Interesting. Now, over in the UK, Labour Party leader Sir Keir Starmer is navigating his own internal party politics regarding welfare reform. He claims his proposed reforms strike the right balance, but this comes after apparently making concessions to his own backbench MPs. There was also criticism from some within the Department for Work and Pensions, DWP, calling the initial plans disorganized and ineffective.
This situation highlights the classic tightrope walk for an opposition leader trying to present credible, potentially reforming policies while keeping their own party unified. Welfare reform is almost always a politically sensitive area. Starmer's claim of finding the right balance suggests he's trying to position labor as fiscally responsible and perhaps tougher on benefits than some on the left of his party might prefer, while still offering support for vulnerable groups. Making concessions to his backbench MPs indicates there was internal disagreement or concern about the initial direction, perhaps fearing it was too harsh or unworkable.
And the criticism from DWP officials.
That reported criticism, calling the plans disorganized and ineffective, is potentially damaging, suggesting practical implementation issues or a lack of detailed thinking, although such criticisms from civil servants about opposition plans are sometimes politically motivated or based on incomplete information. Overall, it shows Starmer trying to navigate the difficult path of signaling change and competence on a thorny issue, while managing internal party pressures and external scrutiny before potentially taking power.
Shifting back to the U.S. and immigration policy, the U.S. has announced a deadline to terminate temporary protected status, TPS, for Haitian immigrants. This raises immediate concerns about the future for thousands of individuals who've been living and working legally in the U.S. potentially for many years.
Yes. TPS is a designation granted to nationals of countries experiencing ongoing armed conflict, environmental disaster, or other extraordinary conditions that temporarily prevent their safe return. Haiti has faced numerous such crises, including devastating earthquakes, political instability, and gang violence. Announcing a termination deadline for Haitian TPS means that thousands of individuals who were previously protected from deportation and authorized to work will lose that status on a specific future date unless the decision is reversed or challenged legally. This creates immense uncertainty and anxiety for these individuals and their families, many of whom have built lives, careers, and communities in the U.S. over years, sometimes decades. It raises humanitarian concerns about deporting people back to potentially unsafe conditions in Haiti, and also economic concerns regarding the loss of workers in various sectors. TPS decisions are often politically contentious and subject to change based on conditions in the home country and the administration's policy priorities.
A really difficult situation for those affected. Now for a political upset in New York. Zoran Mamdani's surprising victory in the New York mayoral primary, defeating established figures, has apparently sent shockwaves through the political landscape there. It's even fueled some speculation about a potential Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez presidential run in 2028.
Primary upsets like Mamdani's victory, especially in a high-profile race like the NYC mayoral primary, can indeed signal shifts in the political mood or the effectiveness of grassroots organizing versus established party machinery. Mamdani represents a more progressive wing of the Democratic Party. His win against more moderate or establishment candidates suggests that progressive energy and mobilization remain potent forces, at least in certain Democratic strongholds.
And the link to AOC 2028.
The speculation about an Ocasio-Cortez presidential run is likely fueled by the idea that such primary victories demonstrate a viable path for progressive candidates challenging the party's center. If candidates aligned with her political movement can win major primaries, it might embolden her or others like her to aim higher. However, winning a primary in a specific city is very different from building a national coalition for a presidential run. It's more a sign of ongoing ideological currents within the Democratic Party than a direct predictor of 2028, but it certainly adds to the political chatter and calculation.
Interesting dynamic. We also see politics intersecting with academia. The president of the University of Virginia reportedly resigned under pressure from the Trump administration, apparently due to disputes over diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) programs. This highlights concerns about government interference in academic institutions.
This is a significant and concerning development, touching on issues of academic freedom and institutional autonomy. Universities traditionally operate with a degree of independence from direct political control, particularly regarding curriculum, research, and internal policies like DEI initiatives. If the UVA president's resignation was indeed forced by administration pressure specifically over DEI programs, it represents a direct challenge to that autonomy. DEI programs themselves are a subject of intense political debate currently, with proponents seeing them as essential for addressing historical inequities and opponents viewing them as discriminatory or divisive. Government interference in forcing personnel changes based on disputes over such internal university policies raises serious questions about political overreach into academic governance and the potential chilling effect on open inquiry and diversity efforts on campuses.
Another intersection. Media and politics. California Governor Newsom has reportedly filed a lawsuit against Fox News, seeking a massive $787 million for alleged defamation. This relates to how the network portrayed a phone call he had with former President Donald Trump.
Wow, that's a huge sum, echoing the Dominion voting system's settlement amount. This lawsuit underscores the increasingly contentious relationship between politicians and media outlets, particularly in the highly polarized current environment. Defamation lawsuits by public figures against media organizations face a high legal bar in the U.S., requiring proof of actual malice, meaning the outlet knew the information was false or acted with reckless disregard for the truth. Newsom's suit, focusing on the portrayal of a specific phone call, suggests he believes Fox News crossed that line, deliberately misrepresenting the conversation to damage his reputation. This case will likely delve into issues of journalistic standards, political bias in reporting, and the legal definition of defamation for public figures. It highlights the ongoing battles over alleged misinformation, media accountability, and the use of lawsuits as a tool in political conflicts.
Definitely a high-stakes legal battle. Meanwhile, in Congress, Senate Republicans are reportedly scrambling to pass what's being called Trump's Big Beautiful Bill. It's described as pivotal to his potential second-term agenda, but they seem to be facing challenges pushing it through before some kind of self-imposed deadline.
The term Big Beautiful Bill is classic Trump branding, suggesting a large, comprehensive legislative package likely covering key priorities for a potential second term, perhaps tax cuts, deregulation, immigration measures, or other signature policies. The reported scramble suggests urgency, possibly tied to upcoming elections or a desire to lock in certain policy frameworks. The challenges in pushing it through likely stem from the narrow majorities in Congress, potential disagreements even within the Republican Party on specific provisions, and the complexities of the legislative process itself, especially for a large, multifaceted bill. It highlights the intense political maneuvering and time pressure involved in advancing major legislative agendas, especially those closely tied to a specific political figure like Trump. Failure to pass it before a deadline could be seen as a setback for his potential future policy platform.
Okay, a couple more domestic policy shifts from around the globe. First, Thailand. They've dramatically reversed their relatively recent decision to decriminalize marijuana. Cannabis is apparently being re-legalized without a prescription. This is a huge U-turn with major implications for the country's now booming, estimated U.S. $1 billion cannabis industry.
This is a truly dramatic and swift reversal of policy, yes. And it's a significant blow to Thailand's burgeoning cannabis sector. Just a few years ago, Thailand made headlines by becoming the first country in Southeast Asia to decriminalize cannabis, leading to this explosion of dispensaries, farms, cafes, and related businesses. It attracted significant investment, boosted tourism in some areas, and created a vibrant, albeit loosely regulated, new economic sector.
And now it's being shut down.
The real legalization, particularly requiring prescriptions for any use, means a substantial portion of this estimated U.S. $1 billion industry, especially the recreational retail side, will effectively become illegal again, almost overnight. This abrupt change is expected to cause considerable economic disruption, likely forcing widespread business closures, inventory losses, and significant legal uncertainty for those who invested heavily in good faith under the previous decriminalized policy. It reflects a significant shift in government stance, likely driven by a combination of factors, perhaps public health concerns about unregulated use, social issues, lobbying from conservative groups, or simply a change in political winds.
A real whiplash effect for that industry.
Absolutely. This case vividly highlights the unpredictable nature of policy changes in rapidly developing sectors, especially those involving substances with complex social, health, and economic implications. It's a powerful and, for many involved, painful reminder of how quickly regulations can change, with profound economic consequences for an entire industry built on a previous policy direction.
And finally, political turmoil in South Africa. President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to fire a specific official has reportedly sparked a crisis, leading to political upheaval. Additionally, the Democratic Alliance DA party, a key partner in the new coalition government, quit a national dialogue initiative amidst disputes, highlighting tensions within the government.
South Africa is navigating a complex new political reality after recent elections resulted in no single party winning an outright majority, forcing the formation of a government of national unity, GNU, including the historically dominant ANC, the opposition DA, and other smaller parties. This arrangement is inherently fragile. President Ramaphosa firing an official, depending on who it was and the reasons, could easily destabilize the delicate power balance within the coalition or antagonize key factions. The DA quitting a national dialogue initiative signals significant disagreements or mistrust between the main coalition partners, likely over policy direction, appointments, or the fundamental terms of their cooperation. These amines highlight the deep-seated ideological differences and historical rivalries that the coalition must overcome to govern effectively. It points to potential instability and challenges ahead for Ramaphosa in managing this unprecedented multi-party government in South Africa.
Definitely a situation to watch closely. Okay, from the intricate world of global politics and policy shifts, let's move to something a bit more diverse for our final section: global incidents, culture, and sports. This section really reminds us of the vibrant, sometimes tragic, and always fascinating human element of public life.
It's a necessary perspective, absolutely, encompassing the human stories, cultural expressions, and societal trends that often get lost amidst the larger geopolitical and technological narratives, but which are just as important in understanding the world we live in.
We begin with cultural heritage and grand events, starting with the Hermitage's grand restoration. This sounds like an absolutely enormous undertaking at the State Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, Russia. It encompasses the entire architectural complex, including the incredibly famous Winter Palace.
This is indeed a monumental project for cultural preservation, yes. A real testament to the enduring value placed on art, history, and architectural heritage. The State Hermitage Museum, as you know, is one of the world's largest, oldest, and most visited art institutions, housed in a complex of historic buildings. It's now undergoing its first truly full-scale restoration in decades. This comprehensive, multi-year project is designed to meticulously address the extensive wear and tear caused by, well, millions of visitors over many decades, plus the natural aging of these magnificent historic buildings.
So we're talking detailed work, not just a paint job.
Oh, far beyond that. It involves meticulous scientific analysis, architectural planning, and skilled craftsmanship to restore intricate facades, repair damaged halls, conserve priceless artworks integrated into the architecture, and even restore or replace worn-out features like historic parquet flooring.
Ensuring it stands for centuries more, basically.
That's the goal, exactly. The restoration is set to begin with the iconic Winter Palace itself, the former imperial residence, which has served as the museum's main building since the Revolution in 1917, and it will also include the historic Hermitage Theater. While some past renovations have focused on specific sections, like the General Staff Building, which was extensively renovated more recently, this new project is incredibly ambitious in its all-encompassing scope. It really underscores a significant ongoing commitment to preserving Russia's vast cultural and historical heritage for future generations. It's a massive, multi-year effort reflecting the importance placed on maintaining one of the world's truly great cultural treasures.
Moving from the grandeur of St. Petersburg to the Caribbean, we explore the rich Jewish heritage in Havana, Cuba. This sounds like a fascinating story, highlighting the incredible resilience and cultural fusion of the Jewish community there, thriving despite some unique historical circumstances.
It's a truly fascinating example of cultural persistence, often against a challenging and sometimes isolated backdrop. Despite Cuba's officially atheist government being established after the 1959 Castro-led revolution, religious diversity has continued, sometimes quietly, sometimes more openly. The Jewish community in Cuba, though relatively small in number today compared to its peak, remains remarkably active and vital. Heritage tours are now offering visitors an immersive experience, allowing them to explore significant sites like the Beth Shalom Synagogue, the main conservative synagogue, and the Adeth Israel Synagogue, Orthodox, in Old Havana, as well as the Sephardic Center.
So it's not just about history, but living culture.
Exactly. These tours engage visitors not only with historical artifacts, cemeteries, and the community's poignant past, including waves of emigration, but also with its living traditions. Visitors can sometimes participate in Shabbat services, witness vibrant community activities like dance programs, or learn about how the community supports its members, often with help from international Jewish organizations. It showcases how, even with a population that dwindled significantly from around 15,000 in the 1950s to perhaps about 1,000 or so today, the community has managed to maintain its distinct identity, foster meaningful cultural exchanges, and preserve a unique and quite moving legacy of Jewish life in the Caribbean. It's a powerful story of adaptation, faith, and cultural resilience against considerable odds.
Now for some highlights from the world of music festivals. Glastonbury always generates buzz. Louis Capaldi apparently made an emotional return to the festival with a surprise performance.
Yes, that was reportedly a very moving moment. Capaldi has been open about his struggles with Tourette's syndrome and anxiety, which previously forced him to take a break from performing. His return to such a massive stage like Glastonbury, even for a surprise set, would have been hugely significant for him and his fans, demonstrating resilience and his connection with the audience.
And another artist looking towards Glastonbury's main stage. Duki, the rising star, announced that headlining Glastonbury is part of her 5-year plan for becoming a music icon. Ambitious.
That's confidence. Glastonbury's Pyramid Stage is one of the most iconic performance slots in the world. For an artist like Doechii, known for her high-energy performances and genre-bending style, stating that ambition publicly sets a clear goal and signals her determination to reach the very top tier of the music industry. It shows aspiration and belief in her trajectory.
And the full lineup for the weekend also included huge names like Olivia Rodrigo, Noah Kahan, and the legendary Nile Rodgers and Chic. Always a diverse mix at Glastonbury.
Absolutely. Glastonbury prides itself on that eclectic mix, showcasing established megastars alongside emerging artists across numerous stages and genres. Having pop sensations like Olivia Rodrigo, folk pop troubadours like Noah Kahan, and timeless funk legends like Nile Rodgers and Chic all on the same bill really exemplifies the festival's broad appeal and its status as a major cultural event, reflecting the wide spectrum of contemporary and classic popular music.
And from festivals to, well, extravagant weddings, what's being dubbed the wedding of the year, Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez celebrated their lavish, star-studded wedding in Venice. It drew huge media attention and celebrity crowds to the reportedly $50 million affair.
Chuckle slightly. Yes, when one of the world's richest individuals gets married, it tends to make headlines, especially with that kind of price tag and a Venetian setting. The $50 million figure, if accurate, speaks to an almost unimaginable level of opulence. Extravagant venues, couture fashion, A-list guest list flown in from around the world, top-tier entertainment, security, the works.
A bit different from the average wedding budget.
It's just a bit. It becomes less a private event and more a public spectacle, generating commentary on wealth inequality, celebrity culture, and extravagance. While undoubtedly a joyous occasion for the couple, the sheer scale and cost inevitably draw comparisons and critiques, alongside the breathless coverage of the fashion and celebrity attendees you find in outlets like Vogue and gossip columns. It's a glimpse into a world very few experience.
Indeed. Okay, shifting tone now to crime, tragedy, and acts of resilience. First, a scandal involving royalty. The son of Norway's crown princess, Marius Borg-Heiby, is reportedly suspected of some 23 offenses, including the extremely serious charge of rape. This case has obviously gained significant media attention due to his royal connection.
This is a very serious situation, and the royal connection inevitably amplifies the media scrutiny immensely. Marius Borg-Heiby, while not in the direct line of succession, is the son of Crown Princess Mette-Marit from a previous relationship, making him a well-known public figure in Norway. Being suspected of such a large number of offenses, particularly including rape, is shocking. The legal process will need to unfold, but the allegations themselves cast a shadow and create a difficult situation for the Norwegian royal family, who often face intense public and media interest in their personal lives. It highlights how figures connected to royalty, even indirectly, are held to intense scrutiny, and serious allegations like these become major national news stories.
A major drug bust next. British authorities have revealed the interception of a massive 2.4 metric tons of cocaine at London Gateway Port. That's valued at around $112 million, apparently marking the sixth largest cocaine seizure in UK history.
That is an enormous quantity of cocaine, and a significant success for law enforcement agencies involved likely the National Crime Agency and Border Force. Seizures of this scale disrupt major international drug trafficking networks, preventing vast amounts of harmful narcotics from reaching the streets. Discovering 2.4 tons, valued at over a 100-year low, highlights the sheer scale of the illicit drug trade and the continuous efforts by organized crime groups to smuggle vast quantities into lucrative markets like the UK. It also underscores the importance of intelligence gathering, port security, and international cooperation in combating transnational crime. This single bust represents a major financial blow to the criminal organization responsible.
From high-tech surveillance to, well, low-tech noses. An unconventional policing story. A dog specially trained to detect tobacco helped police in a multi-agency operation track down and seize thousands of illegal vapes, cigarettes, and tobacco products.
That's actually brilliant. While we often hear about drug-sniffing dogs or explosives detection dogs, using canine senses to find illicit tobacco and vapes is a clever and effective tactic. These products often evade taxes and safety regulations, and the illegal vape market in particular has exploded, posing health risks with unregulated contents. A dog's sense of smell is incredibly powerful and can pinpoint hidden stashes that human officers might miss during searches of shops or warehouses. This story highlights the effectiveness and versatility of canine assistance in law enforcement, tackling not just traditional crime, but also regulatory offenses and illicit trade in everyday goods. A great example of using the right tool, or rather, the right nose for the job.
Now, for a truly poignant and somber moment we touched on earlier in politics, but worth revisiting here in the context of tragedy and public response. Minnesota Representative Melissa Hortman, her husband, and their beloved dog Gilbert lay in state after their assassination. President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Governor Walz attended the funeral, honoring their legacy as public servants. This was a profound national tragedy.
This was indeed a deeply tragic and shocking event, and the outpouring of grief and respect was profound, extending right across the nation regardless of political affiliation in many cases. The decision to have Representative Hortman, her husband, and remarkably their loyal dog Gilbert, all lie in state together is highly unusual and underscores the immense public mourning and the devastating personal impact of their loss on the community and the state. Gilbert, the dog, reportedly remaining steadfastly by their side during the attack and afterwards, offered this incredibly touching and powerful symbol of loyalty, unwavering companionship, and, in a way, innocent love amidst unimaginable sorrow and violence. It resonated deeply with many people.
The image is heartbreaking.
It truly is. The attendance of the president, vice president, and the governor at the funeral speaks volumes about the gravity of the incident and the high regard in which the Hortmans were held as dedicated public servants committed to their community. It was a rare and deeply somber moment of national mourning, acknowledging not just their public service, but also the shocking, senseless nature of their assassination. It serves as a terrible reminder of the human cost of political violence and the increasing vulnerability felt by those who serve the public in today's climate.
A very heavy story. Also from the region, a horrific road collision reported in Egypt's Nile Delta region. 19 individuals, tragically including teenage laborers, lost their lives. This underscores ongoing road safety concerns.
Another terrible tragedy with a high loss of life. Road safety remains a major issue in many parts of the world, including Egypt. Collisions involving vehicles carrying multiple passengers, especially laborers being transported, often result in devastating casualty numbers. Factors contributing to such accidents can include poor road conditions, vehicle maintenance issues, speeding, driver fatigue, or disregard for traffic laws. This incident, particularly the involvement of teenage laborers, highlights not only road safety concerns, but potentially issues around child labor regulations and the precarious conditions faced by vulnerable workers. It's a stark reminder of the urgent need for improved infrastructure, stricter enforcement of traffic laws, and better safety standards for transportation, especially for workers.
One more difficult story involving public figures and family history. MI6, the British intelligence agency, has apparently cast distance between its new chief, Blaise Mitchell-Willey, and her grandfather. It was revealed that her grandfather was a Nazi spy known as the Butcher.
This is an incredibly awkward and sensitive situation for the new head of MI6. Intelligence agencies, particularly MI6 with its history and public profile, rely heavily on trust, discretion, and vetting. The revelation that the new chief's grandfather had such a dark past, serving as a Nazi spy with a brutal nickname like the Butcher, inevitably raises uncomfortable questions and intense media scrutiny, even though she herself obviously bears no responsibility for her ancestors' actions decades before she was born. MI6 casting distance is likely a carefully worded statement aiming to separate the chief's professional standing and loyalty from her family history, emphasizing that individuals are judged on their own merits and service, not their lineage. However, such revelations about family background, especially involving espionage and wartime atrocities, can be used by adversaries or critics to try and undermine confidence or create distractions. It highlights the intense scrutiny faced by individuals in high-profile intelligence roles, where even distant family history can become a matter of public interest and potential controversy.
Difficult position for her, undoubtedly. Okay, let's end our dive today with updates from the sporting arena. These often showcase incredible human effort and achievement, but also, sometimes, the harsh challenges faced by athletes on and off the field.
Indeed. Sports often act as a microcosm of broader societal issues, reflecting everything from the pressures of fame and the dark side of online behavior to debates about fairness and the unexpected physical vulnerabilities of even the most elite athletes.
Let's start with a persistent and damaging problem: online abuse in sports and entertainment. Tennis player Heather Watson revealed she received her first death threat at just 18 years old, simply due to social media abuse after losing a match. Similarly, Irish singer CM continues to endure online abuse after releasing a viral song that bravely responded to fat-shaming comments she received. It got so bad, apparently, that she actually removed the TikTok app from her phone entirely.
These are both stark and deeply troubling reminders of the pervasive and damaging nature of online harassment, particularly affecting public figures, whether they are athletes competing under pressure or artists sharing their work. Heather Watson's experience at such a young age receiving a death threat for losing a tennis match underscores the often toxic environment professional athletes face on social media. Intense public scrutiny can quickly escalate into abusive, hateful, and genuinely threatening behavior, which inevitably impacts their mental well-being, performance, and sense of personal safety.
It's just unacceptable.
Completely. And CMAT's situation is equally disturbing. Even when using her art to push back against hateful comments like fat-shaming, she continues to endure abuse, highlighting how relentless, irrational, and often misogynistic cyberbullying can be. Her decision to remove TikTok, a major platform for artists today, shows the extreme emotional and mental toll this takes. It can force individuals to disconnect from platforms that are otherwise essential for their careers, promotion, and fan engagement.
It really forces them offline.
Yes. And both cases vividly demonstrate the urgent need for social media platforms themselves to implement far more effective, proactive measures to combat online abuse, hate speech, and threats. They need to create safer digital environments for everyone, but especially for those whose professions place them in the public eye and make them targets. The current measures are clearly insufficient for many.
A debate about fairness in prize money now at Wimbledon. British tennis player Oliver Tarvett, who qualified for Wimbledon 2025, is advocating for a change in the NCAA prize money rule. He believes he deserves equal prize money as other players competing at that level.
This touches on the complex rules governing amateur status for student athletes, particularly within the U.S. collegiate system, NCAA. Many international tennis players compete in the NCAA while developing their game. The NCAA has strict rules about athletes accepting prize money designed to maintain their amateur status. However, when these athletes qualify for major professional tournaments like Wimbledon, which offers substantial prize money even for early rounds, it creates a conflict. Tarvett's argument is likely that, having earned his place in a top professional event, he should be entitled to the same compensation as his professional opponents, regardless of his NCAA affiliation. He feels the NCAA rules are outdated or unfair in this context, potentially forcing him to choose between his education college team and significant professional earnings he rightfully competed for. It's part of a broader ongoing debate about compensating student athletes and the definition of amateurism in modern, highly commercialized college sports.
Makes sense. A comeback story in boxing. Former heavyweight world champion Deontay Wilder apparently made a successful return to the ring by defeating Terrell Herndon. This ends his recent losing streak, though reports suggest some questions about his performance still linger.
Deontay Wilder is known for his incredible one-punch knockout power, but he had suffered some high-profile defeats recently, raising questions about his future in the elite tier of the heavyweight division. Getting a win against Herndon is crucial for rebuilding momentum and confidence. However, the fact that questions linger about his performance suggests it might not have been the dominant, explosive display fans associate with him at his peak. Perhaps he showed ring rust, or maybe his opponent proved tougher than expected. While a win is a win, especially to break a losing streak, the manner of victory often matters in boxing when gauging if a fighter still possesses championship-level capabilities. Wilder will likely need more convincing performances to fully reestablish himself as a top contender for the major titles again.
Now, a concerning health scare in women's football. Spanish footballer Aitana Bonmati, the reigning Ballon d'Or feminine winner, arguably the best player in the world right now, has been hospitalized with viral meningitis. This comes just before the upcoming Women's European Championship.
Oh, wow. That is terrible news, both for her personally and for the Spanish national team. Bonmati is absolutely central to Spain's success. She's the engine in their midfield, incredibly skillful, intelligent, a real game changer. Winning the Ballon d'Or cemented her status as the world's best. Her unexpected absence due to a serious illness like viral meningitis right before a major tournament like the Euros is a massive blow for Spain's prospects. They are considered one of the favorites, and she is indispensable to their style of play and team morale.
It throws their whole preparation into disarray.
Completely. While her health is obviously the absolute priority, for the team, losing such a pivotal player just days or weeks before the championship creates an immense tactical and psychological challenge. They'll be forced to quickly reevaluate strategies, formations, and player roles. It powerfully highlights the fragility of even elite athletes' health and how quickly unforeseen medical issues can dramatically impact high-stakes competitions, leaving a top team scrambling to adjust to a major, unexpected setback. Everyone will be wishing her a full and speedy recovery.
Absolutely. And finally, quick hits from cricket and Formula One. In cricket, Smriti Mandhana's brilliant century led India to a dominant victory over England in a T20 match, inflicting England's heaviest T20 defeat ever by runs.
Smriti Mandhana is a world-class batter, and a century in T20 cricket is always a remarkable achievement given the format's speed. Leading India to such a dominant win and inflicting a record defeat on a strong team like England underscores her match-winning ability and the strength of the Indian women's cricket team, a significant result in their rivalry.
And in Formula One, Lando Norris clinched his maiden pole position at the Austrian Grand Prix with what he described as a sensational lap, close to perfection.
That's a huge milestone for Lando Norris and his McLaren team. Getting your first F1 pole position is a massive achievement, especially at a challenging track like the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Qualifying is all about extracting the absolute maximum performance from the car over a single lap under immense pressure. Norris, describing his lap as close to perfection, indicates he felt he delivered everything possible. It signals his arrival as a consistent frontrunner capable of challenging for wins and a big boost for McLaren's resurgence. A great moment for him.
Okay, and just before we wrap up, let's take that very brief overview of some economic indicators that caught our eye. Just snapshots, really.
Right, it's a few quick glimpses into the current financial climate and market sentiment as reported recently.
We mentioned him earlier in a different context, but Jim Cramer, the market commentator, offered a characteristically bold six-word response when asked about a potential upcoming bull market. If we're right, this will be the single greatest wealth creation opportunity of our lifetimes. Wow. That's some pretty audacious optimism.
Chuckles. Yes, Cramer is known for his highly bullish, often very enthusiastic pronouncements about the stock market. That statement is certainly peak Cramer optimism. It's an incredibly confident assertion suggesting he sees a powerful confluence of factors, perhaps technological breakthroughs like AI, economic resilience, whatever his reasoning, aligning to create truly unprecedented economic growth and investment opportunities ahead. While, look, it's highly optimistic, maybe even a touch hyperbolic for many analysts, it does reflect a strong underlying sentiment shared by a segment of the market who firmly believe in the market's long-term strength and its potential for truly significant future returns, possibly driven by transformative technologies. It captures that extreme end of bullish conviction.
On a more regulatory note, the Senate GOP has reportedly included SNAP waivers for Alaska and Hawaii in the text of a new megabill. This seems aimed at addressing regional disparities in food aid access or costs.
Yes. SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, is the primary federal food aid program. Waivers can allow states flexibility in applying program rules, often to account for unique local circumstances. Alaska and Hawaii face significantly higher costs of living, particularly for food, compared to the contiguous U.S. Including SNAP waivers specifically for them in major legislation likely aims to adjust benefit calculations or eligibility criteria to better reflect these higher costs, ensuring residents receive adequate support. It addresses recognized regional economic disparities within a national program framework.
And some reassuring news from the banking sector. The Federal Reserve announced that major U.S. banks have proven resilient to severe economic downturns, based on the results of their annual stress tests. This apparently positions them well to enhance shareholder payouts.
This is generally seen as a genuinely positive sign for the stability of the financial sector and, by extension, the broader economy. The Fed's annual stress tests are deliberately rigorous evaluations. They simulate severe economic shocks like deep recessions, soaring unemployment, crashing asset prices, to see if banks have enough capital to withstand the pressure and continue lending.
So they passed the test.
The announcement indicates that the major banks passed, demonstrating sufficient capital reserves and robust risk management practices. This finding of resilience suggests they are well positioned to navigate significant future downturns without collapsing or needing bailouts. This demonstrated stability then allows them, under Fed rules, to potentially increase shareholder payouts through things like higher dividends or larger stock buyback programs. It reflects regulatory confidence in their financial health and capital adequacy. So yes, a positive indicator for banking sector stability.
And finally, tying back to our earlier tech discussion, tech stocks are reportedly experiencing a breakout. Reports suggest promising gains might be on the horizon, indicating continued positive momentum and bullish sentiment in that part of the market.
Yes, this reflects the strong, ongoing bullish sentiment in the market regarding the technology sector, connecting back to those discussions about AI, innovation, and maybe even Cramer's optimism. A breakout, in market terms, typically means that stock prices are moving decisively past previous resistance levels, often seen as a technical signal for a period of sustained upward movement and potential further growth. This could be driven by various factors. Continued belief in tech innovation driving productivity, strong earnings reports from key tech giants, lower interest rate expectations, or simply persistent investor confidence in the sector's long-term growth prospects, despite those regulatory or ethical debates we discussed. It indicates that the tech industry continues to be a powerful driver of overall market performance, attracting significant investor interest and capital, reinforcing its central role in the modern economy.
Well, what an incredible journey we've taken today. Seriously. From the biomass satellite, literally giving us that X-ray vision into rainforests, and the elusive colossal squid maybe finally revealing its secrets, to the really tricky ethical tightropes of AI development, and the complex, multi-layered dance of global diplomacy we tried to unpack. We've truly covered an immense breadth of ground. We've explored medical breakthroughs that could one day save sight, and we've witnessed stories of profound human resilience, but also deep tragedy.
It truly has been a deep dive into the interconnected global narrative, hasn't it? And understanding these seemingly disparate events from, the microscopic discovery of a protein potentially fighting vision loss, right up to the cosmic stories being told by NASA's brilliant video producers.
Yeah.
It really does help piece together a more complete, more holistic picture of the world. Each segment, whether it's a new tech trend, a tricky diplomatic maneuver, or a significant cultural moment, offers these unique aha moments. They contribute, hopefully, to a clearer, more nuanced view of the complex tapestry of our modern age.
Seeing the connections.
Exactly. It's about seeing the threads that connect science to society, technology to politics, culture to the economy, trying to reveal some of the underlying patterns in all this information flooding towards us.
It certainly is. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I do want to leave you, our listener, with something to maybe ponder. In a world where we've learned today that both Earth's own spin can subtly fluctuate, detected only by hyper-precise atomic clocks, and that powerful AI algorithms are simultaneously learning from our most private, maybe even unpublished, digital moments, blurring the lines of consent and control. What fundamental truths or constants are we truly standing on anymore? And how does the rapid, relentless pace of both scientific discovery revealing things we never knew about our planet or the universe, and complex geopolitical maneuvering, constantly shifting alliances and ambitions, challenge our very perception of stability? Our understanding of what it even means to be informed in this modern age.
That's a profound thought to end on, indeed. It really encourages us all, doesn't it, to continue seeking out knowledge, asking critical questions, and connecting the dots for ourselves, just to try and better navigate this ever-evolving, incredibly complex world we inhabit.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the latest and, we hope, most important information shaping our world. We hope you feel more informed and perhaps just a little more curious about the incredible, intricate world around you.
We certainly look forward to having you with us for the next deep dive.
Until then, stay curious.